So what have we got on today? If I'm quick enough, I might be able to get this lower steering column installed. I tried in the past to buy a non-genuine Land Rover one. It was, if you want my honest opinion, it was just cack. And so I took it off and put the old one back on, which was not ideal. But at the time, again, it's like my excuse as always is I've got other things to do. And I didn't really have enough money at that point to buy one. Don't really have enough money to buy one now, but it's been bugging me for ages because the steering has got like a knock in it, and I suspect it's this lower thing that's causing it. So I splashed out and I bought a genuine Land Rover one, so hopefully this is going to be top quality. And I've still got this fuel filter replaced after I did the fuel pump, so I'm going to try and get to these two jobs today. They're not particularly difficult, it's just the amount of time and how slow I am. And I'm hoping that we'll get that done, so that'll be good if we can do that. This is a good one. What I might try and do as well with this is inspect the old filter when we take it out and see how cruddy it is inside, because I'd be intrigued to see that. I don't usually open things up, but kind of be interesting to have a look at how cruddy it is inside after doing the work. So yeah, that's what we're doing today, and see how we get on. Unexcitingly, under the vehicle we've obviously got to remove this plastic shield and the old oil filter is up here hidden. Actually, you can just about see it through there. So once we've got everything, this plastic shield off, you can get to it. So it's just a few bolts on it with captive nuts, so it's not very interesting to film, is it? But we will take that off first. Then once you've taken the plastic bit off, you've got these three nuts to undo on here, bolts rather. So there's 1, 2, 3, and behind here is the fuel filter, which we'll get to very shortly. And there she is, hiding in her little compartment. I even put a date on there of the last one, so it was only done September 2023, so it's not that old. But because I've messed about with the fuel tank, I wanted to replace it anyway, and it's not going to hurt the car to do that. So that is what we're going to get to next, and we're just going to follow careful procedure to undo it, and hopefully I'll be able to set the camera up and film it. Okay, so once we're exposed, we've got this this drain thing at the bottom. We've got a wiring connector here that needs to be disconnected, and in my car this is a cartridge type, so it rotates. You can see on this side that it says unlocked, hopefully, and then on this side it says locked, and you have a very helpful guide on here as to where the position is for it to be locked. So at the moment it's locked because it's fitted to the car, which is correct. So we're going to carefully unlock it, twist it, and so it unlocks. Gently drop it down, be careful of this bit at the bottom, which is the where this drain plug port goes, because you've got to swap that onto the new filter. It doesn't come with those. And then we will transfer those bits over and get the other filter over here. It shouldn't leak from the top once you do it, but the cartridge will contain fuel, so just be careful because it can get a bit messy. So that connector comes off, and then you've got the job of trying to rotate anti-clockwise. It can be a bit tricky because there's not a lot of room under here, but as you rotate, okay, you can see that it rotates around. Give it a wiggle. Well, I'm just pushing up on the plastic frame a little bit to give me enough room to manoeuvre this out. So I'm going to keep it like this, so that we've got it and it's not going to leak fuel everywhere. Okay, so that's that bit. And if you have a little look in there, that's with it removed. So you've got a void there. There's obviously a little bit of fuel's going to drip out, but we will. I'm going to put a piece of tissue on that. Right, so we've got our old fuel filter there. You can see, I mean, they do corrode a bit. This is not that old, but it's got some corrosion on it. So it's never going to hurt to replace one. There's a drain point here, which I'm going to try and use to drain out the fuel that's in it. You can see, I don't know if you can see the liquid there, but there's definitely a bit of liquid coming out of it. So if there was, you did get like a water warning that there was water in the fuel, you could sort of drain out the fuel from here. but there shouldn't be really. So that's just draining out fuel. Right, just a little note as well as to where to put the drain, because obviously you've taken it off. It actually does give you a drain pointing down here as to where to set this to. So when you're putting it back on, so it locks just over here and then it drains there. I'm going to write my date on there again probably when I put the new one back in, but we're nearly drained out. Then we've got this underneath bit, and this is just very gently, if you feel it, you can actually, so it's not very tight when you do it up, because obviously you're not going to do it up very tightly. So you can do this by hand now. Obviously it's going to release more fuel, but it's not something that needs to be done up very tightly. So I'm going to take this off, because we actually want these bits, some of it. And try not to make diesel go everywhere. And get quite a good chunk of fuel out of it, so that's what we got. Not nothing. What's it measure on there? Not being very accurate. 300 odd mils, so it's quite a good chunk of fuel. It's obviously not going in the fuel tank, so discard that safely and put it away. Put it into the recycling centre where you take your other car waste. Right, so we got to the state where we've got the drain at the bottom there, and then this is the piece that would sense if there was any water in the fuel. So we've got to, you know, obviously preserve these because they're going to go back on. So we've got two washers that are going to be replaced. We've got a big one here, and then we've got the smaller one here. So those are going to be replaced. They come with, if you get a genuine filter, they definitely come with it, because I've checked. So when you've got a genuine filter, it will come with the spare parts that it needs. So this bit in the bottom is just a plug that they put in. And then the other thing as well, which is quite nice on a genuine filter, is they do give you instructions if you weren't sure. So we've got the same pointing there. We've got the lock. So that's when it's undone. Then we twist it round until it's locked. And then we've got the nice symbol there to show you where the drain should sit. So that's pretty cool. And when we get the bits back on, we'll line up, and then we'll be able to go and just twist this back on. Just make sure you clean before you start to reassemble. So we've got this big washer here that goes with this. Should just fit in here nicely. And just gently put that on there. And then this, obviously, because it's plastic, you don't want to really be tightening it up massively, so it's more of a just to get it on there, make sure that it's tight enough to stop any diesel leaking out. There are instructions probably on what torque it should be, but I can't imagine it's going to be a high torque. I tend to do it up sort of finger tightish kind of thing, because it gets stiff enough. And then obviously we want it to point to the drain position, so that will kind of finish tightening up a little bit more. Because it's not like crazy tight, you can generally rotate it a little bit. So we've got that, and then we've got this. Remember, when you're putting it back on, you want to make sure this is free to put back, and then just double check you roughly feel that it's all correct, and then it's time to put it back on the vehicle. Right, so we've got our marking over here. I don't know again how easy that is to see, but there is the marking there to align it with to start. So you obviously want to make sure that, because it has got the notches, these notches on it, so it's got a couple of those, 3 of those, you want to make sure that they are in the right position. So if you find we get to the unlocked position, I'm just going to take out my tissue, which is nice and easily. We're going to just gently manoeuvre this into position. That's a bit fiddly to do again and film. You kind of need a couple of hands to do it, but let's have a go. So I've got it on the unlock position. Just make sure my sensor wire is on this side. plastic, or the frame, you can like gently push up because it's plastic. Now I'm stuck. I need another arm. So once you got it over this bit, it's a bit easier to manoeuvre in. That's a bit in the way. Obviously it's harder with a camera because I don't want to knock the camera. So there we go. So we're on unlocked position. Make sure that the filter's kind of visible. So that's just locked now, so we actually want to rotate it till we're on unlocked, which is here, which matches. Then it pushes up. It's got a rubber sort of grommet on it underneath, so you have to push it up so it's mounted in. You can feel it when it goes in. So when it pushes on, you can feel it pushing onto the through the rubber bit. So we're still on unlocked. And it shouldn't be really stiff to rotate round, and you should feel it engaging with the clips so that it is engaging. It's not a really stiff thing to take on or off, and it shouldn't be, because the seal is there. So the drain is pointing into the correct position. I don't even know if you can see that, but and then we've got our wiring connector here, so we didn't lose that. And that just clipped back on here, and then you just make sure that it is all connected. Everything seems tight. It's not wiggling backwards and forwards. Right, and then make sure that where the drain is, it doesn't feel loose and wiggly, so it's kind of all ready to go. Okay, that looks good. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn on the ignition. We're going to just purge this out with a little bit of hose and a Schrader valve, just to make sure we're getting the air out of the system, and then we're done on the fuel filter. And then it's just the reverse process of putting back the shield here and the under tray, and that's pretty much job done on that one. Right, so we get back to the engine bay. We are taking off the cap on the Schrader valve, which is where the fuel can be bled. I'm going to put, you can just do it by pushing it in, turning the ignition, pushing it in, bleeding it out, but I'm going to use a, because I've got a spare Schrader valve thing with a connector on it, I'm going to use that and just purge it out. So that goes on, make sure it's correctly positioned and nice and correctly fitted, and I've got my jar here, and I'm just going to turn on the ignition and make sure that we get some fuel coming through. There you go, so we're just delivering some fuel out of here. Now once you're happy that you've bled everything, have a look underneath and make sure that there's nothing gushing out of it. I can't see any fuel leaks here. It might be a bit wet underneath where the fuel had leaked earlier, but nothing's coming out of the drain. There's nothing leaking from above, and there are no drips of fuel on the actual fuel filter. So I think we have a success, and I'm going to put everything back on and then continue with the next job that I have in mind.